What's up, guys? I'm here with Josh, the owner of Rebel 8.
Hey, what's happening?
And I'm Randall, the owner of Fit Apparel. And we've actually been working on this collaboration for a minute now. I don't know how long it's been, like half a year maybe or something?
It's been quite a few months, and it's definitely been equal amount of time before we even started of just thinking about
just
it.
Connecting and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, Rebel 8's a brand I've been rocking with fucking way before I had Fit Apparel. You're talking like when I was like 15 years old. I don't even know how long ago that was, but yeah, I've been knowing about the brand for that long. It's like a brand that I've always rocked since playing in music scene, playing in a band, and skateboarding. Just that was like the brand that I've always been with, and to be here collaborating with Josh is like fucking crazy to me. So, but yeah, so we're gonna be bringing you guys a full collection. We'll give you ETA drop date soon, but yeah, you guys are probably thinking why, these two brands are doing collaborations, not just because been a fan of Rebel 8, but because we're in the fitness side and they're heavily in the music and streetwear side. But I think one thing that we do both have in common as far as brands is how we grew the brand organically and not catering to the masses, just doing what we think is cool for us and just living our lifestyle, and whoever's hopping on board, just very, very organic.
And I think that's exactly correct. It's like whether you're in different industries or more popular in a certain industry than another, but a lot of times the backstories about why people start a brand or why people start a company and kind of that entrepreneurship, like that spirit, a lot of that kind of overrides any type of differences. So it's kind of like, we could look at each other and say, yeah, we kind of work in somewhat different spaces, but kind of that story and why we got involved, that's the parallel.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about, that's why I love, this whole project has been, from a surface level, it might not make sense to anybody. But once people understand of kind of those roots and those beginnings and kind of where influence comes from, that's where a lot of this really stems from. So kind of this collaboration, although it's something that we're releasing quite soon, in a lot of ways, it's almost many, many, many years in the making. In some ways, before we even met.
Right.
It's kind of like the seeds were already kind of planted of where we naturally gravitate towards individually, as business owners, and as brands.
Yep. So, you guys have been around for a long time. When did you start the brand again?
So I started this company in 2003, and just a quick little backstory on that is I was only 22 years old. I don't come from a rich family. I started this company with $500 cash, and it wasn't an experiment. It wasn't like, oh, let's try to start with nothing. When you have nothing, you have nothing more to start with.
Right.
And it was really simple. And back then, 2003 was a very different time than now. Yes, it's been 15 years, but the ability that someone has of starting a brand today is, in some ways it's very easy to enter the space, but it's just as difficult to succeed in that space.
Yeah.
And being a 22-year-old kid starting this company is that I kind of had a little bit of a natural sense of business, but I can't even put my mind back there. It's like, it was so daunting, but I was so naive at the time. And maybe you were as well, just like, I just had a refuse to lose attitude. I just felt like, yeah, I could do this. Why couldn't I? And something about t-shirts and clothing, I just naturally gravitated towards.
Right.
For yourself, why did you get into t-shirts?
Shit. Well, I've had clothing brands way before too that never made it, but no one hears about that stuff too. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you said, when you start something, you already have a history or a story behind it, and that's why you want to start it. And with Fit Apparel, it was never meant to be a clothing brand, but because I've had streetwear brands before and knew the process of making t-shirt and stuff when I was personal training, it was so easy for me to just print stuff for my clients. But I put the influence I've had prior, and that's when Live Fit started really, really blowing up, organically and stuff. So, just like you were saying, it was real. You didn't start it just from nothing, right? You had something you wanted to push, a culture. You came from somewhere. So, if you want to touch on that too, about Rebel 8, what kind of influences do you guys have, or where do you guys come from,
Yeah, so the way Rebel 8 started was, I explained of kind of with the money and the year, but really it was a means of trying to put art on t-shirts.
Right.
And I became friends with, at the time, a very talented and well-known graffiti and tattoo artist by the name of Mike Giant. And he was kind enough to just give me art. And I took that art, and that's where I just ran with it. And part of that kind of core of what we come from and the idea is that we've always tried to focus on being original and having that originality and trying to put something out into the world that didn't previously exist. And part of Rebel 8 was I looked at the marketplace, I looked at people's t-shirts and everything, and I said, this isn't something I would wear. Let's make something that I personally would wear. So for quite a few years in the beginning, we only made products that we would personally want to wear. And as a brand expands and changes and your customers come up with ideas and you make women's apparel, obviously you're not going to wear everything that you make.
Right.
But that idea is still there, is trying to put something unique into the world that didn't previously exist and cater to a customer that is very like-minded and in a lot of ways goes against the grain. And for Rebel 8, it's always really been about anti-authority.
Right.
It's really a DIY kind of idea. And if for anybody that doesn't know what DIY is, that's do it yourself. And I've always kind of been raised where if you don't do it yourself, no one's going to do something for you.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. I remember seeing like Rebel 8 just pretty much everywhere, but not in like at mainstream at first, but just everyone that was like in the hardcore scene, the punk scene, the skate scene. You'll see these dudes always having the 8 on it, you know, like Travis Barker, he still rocks it, you know? And like now it's gone to a level where you got celebrities rocking it, but you guys didn't even give them the clothes, and I know that, you know, they're just rocking it because it's cool, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've really wanted it to be from the very beginning. We've always wanted an organic approach.
Right.
It's organic growth. It's organic of who naturally gravitates towards it.
Right.
And a lot of that really started with not having a lot of money to begin. So we didn't have money to advertise. The reason why the majority of Rebel 8 was always black and white was because it was cheaper to print on t-shirts in one color. It was cheaper to do stickers in one color. All of our catalogs were done on Xerox printing machines. So everything was photocopied, and it was always black and white because it was cheaper. So kind of our DNA of the brand was a hindrance at first of having just black and white imagery was due to not having the capital to produce in color. And over time, that just kind of became our DNA and our look.
Yeah.
And part of that organic growth has been just over many, many years, putting a product out that we're comfortable with and just letting it marinate in that world. And eventually it just spread. And it never looked like we were an outsider coming into someone's culture.
Right. Exactly. So now you guys been there before Instagram, like before Facebook, like all this stuff, like the MySpace days, maybe even before that shit. And you guys did it because we started off direct to consumer. You know, now you guys are obviously direct to consumer as well, but majority in the beginning retail stores, right?
Yeah.
Like the wholesale side, you know, and that's something I'm familiar with, but not on your level, you know?
Yeah, I think originally when Rebel 8 first started, obviously there weren't many people at all shopping online. And it's hard to go back and think about what was life before Facebook or Instagram or shopping on the web or before really Amazon and that stuff. And it's hard for people to kind of put yourself in that zone. But with Rebel 8, it was really about supporting like-minded people. And whether that was our end customers or it was the wholesale customers. So we really prided on ourselves supporting like mom and pop boutiques around the world.
Right.
And if someone was wanting to start their store in whatever town they were, we wanted to be that brand to help support them.
Yeah.
We always tried keeping, corporate money and kind of commercial kind of financing out of the business. To this day, I've funded Rebel 8 off that initial $500 investment all the way into now, and I still own Rebel 8 100%.
That's crazy.
And those kind of things don't happen too frequently. And so part of it with starting with these stores and these boutiques was looking at someone else that might have come from the same type of background and doesn't have the capital or financial means to be able to do more than maybe a little store. And I wanted my brand to support other entrepreneurs and other people that had dreams about being successful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so when I started off with it, we had like retail stores, but after we built the culture and built the following with Instagram first, you know, the stores started hitting us up, and you know, we had the leverage because we had the market, you know what I mean? And you guys now have the market and then have the wholesale side. I want to go back onto the wholesale side and the whole game and how it's changed, because you've seen it firsthand, you know? I don't know, maybe explain to the consumers of like how this whole technology thing is shifting the whole game from retail stores, big box corporate money, to now direct to consumer, and now these stores are like crumbling, you know, asking for, you know what I mean?
I do know exactly what I mean. So for a few decades, the way the fashion or apparel industry worked, it was really like a playbook. And if you played by the book, you have a much greater chance of success. And part of it used to be where designers, we would design a year and a half to 2 years out. And you would come up with an idea, you'd come up with your creation, come up with your designs. You would then go to a trade show, and that's where you would then present all the work that you've already been doing kind of behind the scenes. You'd present it to the buyers. And what the buyers were basically people that made decisions for boutiques or for other stores about what they were going to bring into their store. So you would kind of do your design part, you would talk to the buyers, they would buy your stuff, you would then produce it and sell it to them. It was their burden and their job to bring it into their stores to then showcase that or merchandise it for the end customer. So basically, if you think about it not on a linear level, this could be about 2 to 3 years out, that's maybe on an extreme, but how far you might come up with the concept until it's actually in store. Mm-hmm. And part of that also is that everything was really segmented. It's like there would be times that we really didn't communicate with our end customer, and a lot of times we wouldn't know who they were because we were focused on the buyers and the stores. Mm-hmm. They would focus all the way down kind of that. Yeah. And over time, and with the way the internet is now and the way like with LVFT, it's like from you as an owner to your customer, there's nothing in between. It's a direct line of communication, a direct line of sales, whether that's through social media, whether that's through your website. And I think what's happening is that on an entire industry, the speed to market, meaning when you come up with a design, you want that to get to your customer as soon as possible. So all the people in between, whether they're buyers, whether they're stores, whether they're sales reps, agents, whatever it is, all these people are getting kind of washed out. And at the end of the day, it's going to be someone like us, and it's going to be people like you. And that's exactly what's kind of really pure about this new future and what's so awesome about it. Mm-hmm. But it's completely different than the way business worked. And for companies like LVFT, a perfect example is like, in some ways, it's a total disruption of showing success without taking the traditional routes.
Mm-hmm. There's no middleman involved, and I think that's like you were saying, is so important, for these people to actually see the behind the scenes from the phone off your hand. Like this is the owner, and you're taking the time out. Like this is what's going on. That's why I like what you're doing lately is just showing the history of how Rebel 8 started. Like people are into that stuff. When they just see stuff at the stores, there's not that emotional connection. Mm-hmm. I feel like I think with LVFT, from what I experience is people. This is why they wait in line to meet us and stuff like that, to tell them like, oh man, your story is inspiring, this and that, and then they just start buying into more, not just the clothes, but the culture, everything you put out. And I think Rebel 8 has done that fucking very, very well too.
Thank you.
So
I think for LVFT in particular, and I think what I try to do with Rebel 8 might be somewhat similar, is that people don't necessarily buy what we make, they buy why we make it. And I think that's a very big difference between product and a brand, company, and what an actual brand is that the actual value of this clothing isn't just the ink on the t-shirt or the blank t-shirt. It's everything that has gone collectively into making that and that kind of project and what it ultimately stands for. And I think a lot of people look at the owner side and like the curtains really got pulled back, especially now with social media, is that, like I know for you, for example, it's like, people see the cars, they see the house, they see that success, and they're able to kind of say, wow, this is who he really is. This is what's happening behind the scenes. This is where my money is going, and this is kind of what he values. And I think when your customers kind of connect with you on that, that's something truly special that didn't really exist in the past.
Yeah, right. Goes back to like culture and stuff. I said this in the speech I just did like the other month or a couple weeks ago. It's like, why do people pay for music? You can't fucking grab music. You hear it, but it makes you feel a certain way, so people will buy it. I was like, why do you buy an album? Why do you buy this music or this song? Because it makes you feel good, and that's, I think, something that correlates strongly with like streetwear and stuff like that. Like the t-shirt is just a t-shirt, but you pay for it because you want to fuck with the whole community, the whole culture. So I think that's super important in that.
Yeah. It's like you can't do something for as long as even Randall's been doing a company or myself for 15 years now. It's like at some point, money is always going to be important, but it doesn't become the reason why you continually do something.
Right.
You would burn out even if on those initial years of when there were so many obstacles to even get to remotely a level of success, like even this big, it's like there was just, that idea and passion of why. And I think kind of like what I think our stories and kind of the history of our brands can also do is that it might not be someone that's thinking about just doing apparel and clothing, but you can apply the idea of doing something and working really hard in it and being really passionate about it, whatever that may be. And I think the trick has always been for me is just doing something over a lot of period of time.
Oh, yeah.
And I always said this, and I still hold true to this, is that if I could do a small thing, even the smallest thing for Rebel 8 every single day, and it's a step in the right direction, those little steps add up to really big steps. And what I found is that it's never been one big thing. It's like we've collaborated with Vans. We've done 5 shoe deals with them. We've designed stores around the world. We've done incredible amount of business for over all these years. But it's never been one thing that's been that tipping point. And maybe we haven't found it yet, but what I've found success is that it's all these little things that go in the right direction that add up to huge things.
Yeah, it's building history.
Yes.
Building history, and you're creating longevity. You're not chasing like the big fucking deal or nothing like that. It's just all these accumulations of small actions, small things. So.
Well, I think you've even mentioned before Live Fit, you had history in either doing clothing and doing t-shirts. It's
right.
like that also builds into the success of Live Fit. Mm-hmm. It's like it's the learning curve, and the learning curve, I always say, even if you're in school or not in school, learning costs money, and it takes time. Yeah. And so over that time, you hopefully don't make the same mistake twice, and that puts you in a much better position.
Right. So let's talk about, I know you're picky as fuck, I'm picky as fuck, so let's talk about like these pieces and how the hell we ended up with this shit.
So I think what's really interesting is like when companies decide to like do a collaboration together, and there's so many different reasons. It's be the same amount of difference of reasons why you start a company. It could be the same for a collaboration. Mm-hmm. For me wanting to collaborate on a level with Rebel 8 and Live Fit, it really comes down to is as I've met you, and I remember you came over here to the offices like a couple years ago, is that you got on my radar. And over those couple years, I was kind of following you and seeing where is this going to go? Is this going to be kind of like a real quick pop in this, I've seen so many people in this industry come and go really fast. And from what I've been seeing over all those years, it was just continually building on those successes and doing so many things to put all your energy right back into the brand. Mm-hmm. And I think what you do so incredibly well is that you're incredibly truthful with who you are, and that comes all the way through the clothing. Mm-hmm. It's just like you know exactly what you're getting with Live Fit. Yep. There's no smoke and mirrors, and that is really rare in any industry, especially in clothing and anything that touches on streetwear.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of the backstory of wanting to do the collaboration, or like why I became, I became a fan. But I also think when it came to designing this thing is that it's so easy to overdo it. It's like almost like building a car. You could add, you can go to Kragen and just get crazy on bullshit, but it's probably not going to make your car that much better at all. And I think with this collection, it's kind of like I wanted to bring it to kind of a really core level. Like, what is the basis of this stuff? And it's like just taking the names, it's almost that in its sense is what the collaboration is about. It's a very wearable piece. It's a day-to-day pieces. It's especially when you design, like, let's say, a duffel bag. This is a perfect example of something that's really understated with a lot of tonal stuff, a lot of black on black. Because the majority of you guys that buy this, you're not going to use it one time. You're going to keep this thing for years. So quality-wise, it'll have to last for years, but aesthetically, it needs to solve the same problem as well. And if you have a crazy-looking bag with weird colors, you might still buy it, but are you going to be wearing it or carrying it for years on end? Mm-hmm. And when I try to design things, I want to create core pieces. I want to create staple wardrobe products. For like us, it's like, even like to throw another brand in the mix, it's like wearing Vans. It's like, that's a perfect example of just like a staple type of product. And I would like Rebel 8 to get into that same type of world of just people wear day in and day out. And it's kind of, for me, the Live Fit collection is very wearable pieces.
Mm-hmm. Just the name, text, that's it. Not too crazy with the graphics or anything. Keep it nice and simple, easy to see.
And good placement too.
Yep. So we have this long sleeve, this t-shirt right here, and then we have like a woman's hoodie, a snapback too, and a women's sweat and stuffle. I think, yeah, that's it.
So for the women's, it's like a full sweatsuit.
Yeah, we can get shit.
Yeah.
I wanted a hoodie, but
we could have done more.
Realized that later. But one more thing you touched
Yeah.
on was the core pieces. I think people are forgetting this shit because I know we have some core pieces that we've been selling since I fucking started it, and I know you have the same that black or the black and white 8 on it. You know, I have fucking like 3 or 4 of those same damn shirts in my house right now. So yeah, I think that's super important because I mean that's like a brand with fucking history, a culture, and it's like something easy to be recognized. You know, I see brands just change their fucking logos and looks up way too often to try to find their niche. I'm like, nah, you gotta let that shit come naturally and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly correct. Is that it's that kind of organic growth that we both experienced. It's less about changing who we are to make sales. It's more about doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing,
right? And
naturally allowing people to come in to experience what we're doing.
Yeah,
and that's the whole definition really on organic growth. It's not forcing what's not there or changing who you are. I think it's really truth and transparency.
Yeah. Like we've never, I mean, we do somewhat of trends, but I tell these guys, like even my designers, like we need to do our shit and shape our niche or our culture, you know? And I guess this is tips for other entrepreneurs too. You know, you don't want to go on the bandwagon for everything all the time. Then you don't have an identity.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think it's important to touch on trend. And I think that is important to stay relevant. But you're absolutely correct. It's like, I think all of us can kind of roll back in our minds of just even looking at any type of trend, whether it's music, whether it's fashion, whether it's a car, whether it's, food. And you can say, wow, 6 months, a year ago, remember when that was super hot? And now it's dead. And if you make your brand that is that kind of loose with that, you're just going to set yourself up just to have to just constantly change and reinvent who you are. And then at that point, who the hell are you?
Well, for us, I get that question a lot too, where do you see your brand in the next 10 years, 20 years? My thing, I take it somewhat day to day and just doing stuff organically, like we talked about, and just doing stuff in our behind our doors, in the business behind, like I said, in the laboratory where we're doing the design stuff, the creative stuff, just doing what we do and just making sure we're growing, progressing in our own way, and just keep it in organic, dominate the online market. And then as far as wholesale and whatnot, if we get hit up by stores all the time, but it's cool because since we have leverage, we're just saying yes or no, and then maybe I guess I could leak this out too. I think we're going to be opening up our own gym pretty soon, and doing it the same way we've grown the brand. Our corporate gym, we're going to do our own trainers, our own way of training and stuff like that, and then do a retail store in that, but not go too crazy on the wholesale side or nothing. But
that's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So
that really brings your world and everything you touch into a space that fits the brand.
Yeah, and I think it's just keeping it, doing what we do, doing what we like, and doing what we know, because that's, I'm not trying to, it's working so far. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, I think the culture's already there. We've built it. Now let's preserve it, so, yeah.
That makes sense.
And you?
I think what we've always done a job of, and what I want to continue to do, is only work with people that we want to work with, that we like. We've always been really privileged to not do work that we don't want to do. We don't design stuff we hate. We don't work with people we don't want to work with. We're not forced, or no one ever tells me what I have to do. I do what I want to do, which is pretty awesome. And it's really allowed us to continually explore and go much further than I ever thought I was ever going to take this brand. The way I'm looking at the future is a lot of consistency. I think it's also pulling the curtain back a little bit more and embracing that transparency even more so. And I think it's just trying to really stay on your toes and understanding that just because what worked in the past doesn't necessarily mean is what's going to work in the future. And I think at the end of the day, just constantly trying to strengthen the brand and trying to make the brand better, trying to get our customers more excited, and try to focus more on the end customer, not the buyers, not the people that own the stores, and not to undermine them or say they're not important. That's not what I'm getting at. But to focus on the actual person that ends up deciding to buy Rebel 8, to buy this collaboration that is wearing it on the street. and I still get excited. It's crazy. I still get excited every day when I see a stranger or someone I don't know, that I don't even know if they're a stranger, if they're even wearing the brand. But like wherever I go in the world, if I see someone wearing Rebel 8, I'll probably go up and try to say hi or talk to them, but I'll at least be kind of driving by with a big smile on my face. Like it's still, you still have that feeling?
Oh yeah, all the time.
You know?
Yeah,
I always tell this guy, like, I joined a gym and I don't go to the gym, but I joined. That's the first step. And there are a couple people there that wear Live Fit religiously in the gym. And so I'm hoping after this I can like, no, now you wear this. Now you wear the collab stuff. But it's really one of those things it's like, it also gets me excited when I see people wearing my friends' companies and things like that too.
So yeah, I mean this collection is going to be dropping soon. We'll put all the links up in the drop date. Let you guys know. We'll post it up on our social media pages, on our website and stuff. And then yeah, so make sure you follow Josh, Rebel 8, Live Fit, myself, and then we'll be leaking some teasers out and get it out to you guys ASAP.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for listening.
Peace. Cool.